Love that suggestion. Yeah, that's, I think, very important. That you told me. Now I'm going to ask you.
That's my weak point. Managing money today feels more complex than ever. Daily expenses, lifestyle choices, long-term planning, it all adds up. But the real question is, are people truly in control of their savings? And how are their financial habits evolving? Our guest today is Himanshu, founder and CEO of Six Factor, the research company behind the Savings Index 2025 by National Bonds, a study that uncovers how people across the UAE save, what shapes their decisions, and the challenges stand in their way. Today, we're diving into budgeting, saving habits, retirement, planning, and the rise of new financial tools like real estate, gold tokenization, all through the insights revealed by the study. So we'd like to welcome, of course, an amazing, incredible guest. Thank you very much for joining us here today, Himanshu. How are you doing?
Thank you, Saif. It's a pleasure. Doing very well.
I can see that you're all sharp and ready with
Thank
all
you.
the finance, information.
It's a very interesting topic. It gets me very excited. Unlike buying FMCG categories, I think finance is something that affects each and every one of us. And everyone kind of struggles with what to do with it. So when we have such deep understanding of the market in terms of what people are doing, it's really exciting.
Absolutely. So I would start off with an important question, Himanshu. Based on the savings index, how well are people managing their expenses today?
I think this is a very, very crucial question for all of us and for the government. And I think before I answer that question, I want to say that our relationship with money has gone through a significant change post-COVID. So what we have seen is so we have certain philosophies, certain approaches to how we deal with money. And what we realized during COVID is people got the time to rethink that relationship. And in that context, today it's a very interesting world. Whether you talk to Emiratis and the national population here, all the expats, how their relationship with money is and how it has evolved. It's very interesting for us to see that almost 56%, and look at that number for a moment.
It's a big percentage.
56% of Emiratis are saving regularly. 67, which is more than 2 in 3 people, expats, are saving regularly. So we have really evolved from a time where saving was not a priority to a world where a large majority of the population is actually saving.
Okay. So now speaking about savings, like what small changes make the biggest difference in improving savings?
I think that's a very important question, right? So while we say this number is high, what is also very interesting, let me throw some more numbers at you, right? So almost 52% of the Emiratis would like to live in the present, right? And that number is almost 40% for the expats. Almost 53% of the Emiratis and 45% of the expats would like to save more. There are challenges like you were talking, too many expenses. 56% of the Emiratis feel there are too many expenses. Rising living cost is 49%. So on one side, you're seeing that a lot of people are saving. On the other side, we are seeing that a lot of people are saying, I find it difficult to save. And it is actually this polarization which is the interesting place that we are. And there comes your question, what can I do? It's all about habits. One beautiful thing we are seeing is 52% of the people who are saving it almost through automated systems. What does that mean? They have a saving account and they have a standing instruction, or they have a system in which they regularly invest. So the best thing you can do, whether you're an 18-year-old starting to think about your future, or you're a 40-year-old trying to consolidate, or a 50-year-old who's trying to leave a legacy, it's about how do you make it as a habit and how do you keep it consistent. And I think therein lies the tricks of people who actually end up with a very nice savings and very nice financial security versus people who constantly are struggling with that.
Amazing. So can I say, like, there are some similarities or maybe different approaches where, let's say, Emiratis prefer low-risk saving approaches while expats show more openness to diversified tools. In your opinion, why does this difference exist?
So I think you're absolutely right. Different nationalities, saving is something that comes in a cultural context, right? And what you see in the Western markets about how they approach saving, what they do with savings, versus what you see in the national Emirati population who have a fantastic support of the government, and their approach to finance and saving is different from what is the approach of the expats who have come from a different mindset, right? So you're absolutely right in saying the Emiratis are looking for what would traditionally in the financial circles be called a low-risk investments. Again, to throw some number, I think it's about almost 46% of Emiratis are looking at what we call low-risk investments. But there I would like you to pause. Often when we say this statement, it comes with a value judgment that, they're low risk, they're not risk takers. And that is not the same risk. I'm not talking about climbing Mount Everest and where taking risk is very aspirational. I think this is a very smart thinking, especially in a world today which is very, very uncertain, not to name some of the political leaders in some of the Western markets and their changing policies and Twitter policies, where the world goes. So I think when you say they are low risk, I think that's very smart. At the same time, I think there is an interesting, when you're trying to, as a government, as a large institution, when you're trying to educate the public about what they're looking, you need to understand what they're looking for, right? And in that context, when you say you're looking for low risk investment, then how you articulate that conversation, how you engage with them becomes very interesting. And to that extent, you're right that Emiratis are looking for, as I said, low-risk investments, and expat Arabs, a similar number of 47% actually are looking for what we call moderate risk investments. What is very interesting is why do they behave that way, right? What are they looking for? So you would see that the most important criteria for Emiratis and nationals is about Sharia compliance. Now, that means, one, it has to be Sharia compliant. I need to understand what is Sharia compliant. I need to have options with Sharia compliance. It is not to say the other factors are not important. So, for example, the other thing we find very fascinating is capital preservation. So when that you look at as criteria, almost 46% of Emiratis are talking about capital preservation, while only 30% of expats are talking about capital preservation. Now, when you see numbers like this, where you say, okay, are they looking for capital preservation? Is it younger people? You have to understand this. This is where they come from. They come from a world where they are saying, okay, I have money. I want to invest it. I have seen enough ups and downs to make sure that my capital will be protected. I need Sharia compliance. I do need high rate of return, but I'm not being driven by high rate of return. When you look at the criteria, that's only 26% for Emiratis, and it's about 32%. And that I find is a sign of a market which is maturing actually, where they are not going after just single point of criteria saying, because as anyone who from the financial world will tell you, higher rate of return comes at some cost, right? And that cost is a risk, right? So the higher the rate of return you want, likelihood that there's a higher risk of that investment. So they are very consistent. They are saying, I want capital preservation. They are saying that Sharia compliance is very important for me. I do not want high risk investments. And I think they are becoming very consistent versus expats who probably have a different mindset are saying, okay, I actually want a decent rate of return. I'm okay with capital preservation and I'm okay with moderate risk. And I think understanding this helps us educate the society, helps them provide the right instruments and enable them to do what they want to do, which is good for them, good for the country, and good for the well-being and the happiness index of the country in general.
That's a great answer. Thank you very much, Mr. Himanshu. Now let's dive into lack of financial knowledge. Now this is something very, very important. And what I've noticed that most of the people struggle with, and they don't understand about savings, and they don't understand about like how to just save some money and then invest later, or what to do exactly with that certain money. Or we might reach to a certain level where in the mid-month, we're totally broke, we got nothing to do, and they still say, no, take the risk, go and get some loans and do this and do that. So the study highlights lack of financial knowledge as a major barrier. How does this show up in everyday saving behavior?
So I think let's revisit. So we said that the people are they're very interested in saving. They want to live in the present, right? Those are the two things. We are also, so in this polarization, you're constantly balancing. And the world of finance has evolved so much. If you remember my parents' time, definitely there was nothing beyond fixed deposits. right? You go to the bank, everything is in the bank. In those days, there was things like post office, so there was a secure investment. Today, the amount of financial vehicles and the instruments that are available, some of them you talked about earlier, there are cryptos, there are NFTs, there's real estate, there are multiple assets. Now, what has not happened, and I think it's the evolution of the society on the financial side on one side, which is really aggressive. On the other side, what are we doing to educate our youth and our population in that context? Right? Have we talked to them enough? Are we talking to them about what are these financial products? How can they play a life? What is relevant for whom? What is the risk profile? What is the Sharia compliance of this? What is the structuring? What is it right for? What I really find interesting is that there is a high proportion of people who are saving. There are a high proportion of people who want to save more. Now, with that mindset, I think the country is very well placed to allow some large institutions or the governments. There are many government initiatives which are taking place. Organizations such as national bonds have an opportunity to take that mantle, saying, how can I educate people about financial well-being? So I think I don't see it as a problem. I see it as a great opportunity. I see it as an opportunity where institutions engage with people who are willing to engage, and there are a lot of people who are willing to engage about the different kind of financial assets that exist, and how can they engage with those financial assets. For example, we do see already some of this in how people are using. So while a lot of it is in safe fixed deposits, we see the use of jewelry, watches, premium watches. We see investments in crypto. Again, if I want to throw some numbers at you, I think it's almost around 16 to 17% of the people who are, I think as far as cryptos goes, almost 12% of Emiratis are investing in crypto, 17% of expats. In stocks, 13% of Emiratis have invested and 16% of expats. So you see, there are not single digits, there are double digits where people have started looking at alternative investments. And it's not just the young people, right? Often people assume that the crypto investments would be highest in the younger age group. In fact, it's the highest in the 40 to 49 age group, right? Who actually understand finance, who understand the different assets. And that tells me you are in a market where the options are immense. Real estate is a fantastic part of asset allocation. A lot of people are doing it. But what should be the proportion? What should be the proportion at different stages? How much of your assets should be in real estate, should be in gold, should be in whatever is appropriate for you, whether it's crypto, whether it's term deposits. Now, that is something that is actually educating people and educating society as to the right way to do their financial planning. And I think that's where the opportunity lies.
Wow. You answered everything, Mr. Himanshu. All right. Now, talking about, you said crypto and watches and lots of investments, of course. Who is exploring like new products like stocks and crypto, and what motivates that shift?
I think what is very interesting in this market is how do people go about understanding where to invest. Mm-hmm. So you are a person who's going for a job, who's at a mid-level, who have a certain salary. How do you go about thinking, how should I invest, right? Traditionally, we know these are collective cultures. Most of the expats here from the Asian subcontinent or Emiratis, these are collective cultures. So friends and family play an important role, right? But in this segment, and I think we did ask them that specific number, I think 49% talked about friends and family being important for Emiratis. And that number was even higher, which is 68%. Right? So, yes, friends and family play a role, but, friends and family know only as much as they know, right? So, I think there is a need to go beyond friends and families. And in fact, very interestingly, among the Emiratis, I was very encouraged to see almost 44% of Emiratis talking about using advisors. 44%. That's almost half the people, which was 31% among expats. Now, that gives me huge encouragement saying we need to develop almost a certified, trained advisors, whether they are working with banks, whether they are working with mutual funds, who are trained, who are engaging with the population, who are educating them without an agenda, right? So also one of the problems is you're an advisor for a specific fund, you might end up trying to put as much money as much towards you. So general purpose advisors who are guiding you about saving for the long term, saving for specific goals that you might have, depending on your life stage, depending on your wealth status, depending on your risk appetite. I think that's a great opportunity. The other risk, as far as in how people go about investment, is the use of social media. And that was a bit, while it's not so high, I was still surprised to some extent and disappointed to other extent that 15% of Emiratis and almost 31% of expats are using social media for investment advice. And that to me is a red flag. Yeah, not to say that social, but you don't have the credentials, right? You don't know whether it's a 30-year-old, someone who has no or someone who has a hidden agenda,
lack
putting
of
in that
knowledge
advice.
or experience. Yeah.
Absolutely safe. So, right, where is they coming from? So I think we need to be very, very conscious and provide them an alternative so that they don't depend on social media for going. Friends and family at least are well-wishers. Advisors might have an agenda, but they have the knowledge. But we definitely need to ensure that there is this, and there are blogs and financials, and in fact, almost more than 10%, almost I think it was 16% among Emiratis and 22% among expats, people who are looking at financial articles and blogs.
Mm-hmm.
So what it tells you is that the people are already wanting to save. They are saving, they want to save, and they are engaging with a large
amounts or
to understand where to go about. And therefore, I think it's a fantastic place, and we will see a lot of evolution in the Middle East specifically and UAE specifically about how people are investing and how their portfolios not only are becoming more diverse, they are becoming more well-structured and goal-oriented. And I see that change happening very, very subtly. And I think this fixed income is a very, very strong part of the portfolio, where a lot of people I talked about wanting capital appreciation, wanting Sharia compliance. And I think a fixed income portfolio like that of national bonds is becoming more and more popular and will start to play a bigger role in the portfolios of people.
Amazing. And what I can say, Mr. Himanshu, adding to your point about, the lack of knowledge or just people going on social media, depending on others to talk about, finances and how to grow, how to do a very big income, how to get an income, blah, blah, blah. I was approached by people as well with the same matter. They're always saying, look, I'll show you this video on YouTube. Just go ahead and check it out. This guy is a billionaire. He started from scratch. He did this, he did that. And when you see the video, he's not sharing the valuable tips. It's just something normal, but he wants you to sign in for that, session or for that program in order to get, the money. And then right after that, the program is very simple and basic. You can find it also on Google or you can search.
Very well said, Saif. And I think the bigger issue is not that the program is simple. The bigger issue is it could be agenda driven. And in fact, one of the big issues that we have in today's world is because a lot of alternative investments are happening where people say, very complex derivatives, structured products. And if people go into them without understanding the underlying risks, and a lot of times people have lost a lot of money when they've gone into these complex products, even through very, very reputed financial institutions, because they did not understand the underlying risks. So that education about, there are multiple products, but if you're going in crypto, what you're going into crypto, and I see a lot of people going into crypto saying, I know this person who made this much money, but he made this much money when crypto was for $5,000 or $1,000. Today it's $100,000. It's a very different game, right? It's a very different risk profile. It's a very different asset class in terms of what it means in terms of risks and downsides. So that understanding of the product cannot be historical based. And that is often the problem when you look, as you rightly said, Saif, on agenda based communication, which is coming through social media influencers.
Amazing, Mr. Himanshu. So now every road comes to an end. I always say, with hard work, we always believe that, we work very hard just to get in that income and get that money and do the savings and everything. But at the end of the day, we say every road has to come to an end. So there's a retirement program, of course. So let's talk long-term retirement planning and pensions. Are people prepared for the future or not?
We did ask people, what are your primary saving goals? And very, very surprising. I was so pleasantly seeing these numbers. And this was a large survey. We talked to more than 1,800 people across all Emirates. 39% of Emiratis have retirement as a goal, and 29% of expats have retirement as a goal.
I'm one of them. Yes.
So, which is a fantastic place to be, which means someone is saying that I might be 18 today or 30 today or 40 today, but I have a goal. And there are multiple goals, but the proportion of people who have retirement as a goal. Now, when you have such a long-term goal, there is again an opportunity for people to be engaged into specific products, saying how can they make it what we started by saying. The moment you have a long-term goal, it is about habit and consistency, right? So you need the habit, you need the consistency, someone needs to help them, someone needs to enable them, someone needs to guide them. All you need to do is don't worry about these ups and downs. This is a index fund, this is a saving bond. You get into this, just put this amount of money, and in this period of time, this is what your retirement would be. And give them that comfort, right? So for example, a lot of Emiratis want liquidity. It's very high, that I should have access to money. Give them that comfort, that this money is yours, you can take it out, it takes less than 24 hours to send an email, get that and withdraw money from there, and there's no loss, whatever, that education. So to your point, Saif, people are conscious about retirement, and that's very, very good to see, and that will also impact how people are and what people are saving into.
And are younger generations thinking about pension planning early enough or not? What do you think?
I think they are thinking about it. Whether it's early enough or not, Safe, is whenever they start thinking it's great. What I do think is people have become more conscious and aware. It's a part of a conversation. So often what happens is we follow these cultural trends. Financial planning is now become part of a majlis conversation. It is part of a friends conversation. So what we do is what we call, we did some one-on-one interviews. So you would go with people and sit with them in their cafes, among their peer group, and you see what conversations are happening. So yes, football would be there, never will go away. But you do see people talking about, hey, have you started saving? Where have you put your money in? What do you think about crypto? And that to me is a very, very good sign. I think we just need to complement that by enabling them to have more knowledgeable conversations and giving them more easy access into the portfolios that they need to buy.
Amazing, because what I've noticed, most of the football players, they're very smart. They're not always just thinking about the games that they're playing, whether it's a win or a loss, but they're thinking outside as well of the box. They always think about winning, where they invest, let's say a famous player, Cristiano Ronaldo, who's always investing, of course, in hotels, and he has his own brand, and that's how he's thinking, not just for himself. He's thinking about, the future for his kids. So that's something very, very important, and I'm trying to do the same.
Absolutely.
Not comparing, of course, because comparison is the thief of joy. I always say that, but I always say I need to keep, something as a business, or have 2 or 3 businesses, and then I'll just let my kids, handle the business, and I'll just enjoy my retirement. So can you just share with the people out there, what's your best advice when it comes to saving? A very valuable message from you, because honestly, I'm loving this episode. Mr. Himanshu, you've shared very, very valuable information, but now this message is going to mean a lot to us all.
Safe. I think there's one thing, and if I could live my life again, I think there's one thing on financial discipline that I would do. I think a lot of us talk about reading books, IQ, education. I think finance should be a very important vertical in your life. You should think about what are your financial goals. You should put them down on paper, and you should have goals and strategies to meet those goals. I haven't seen many people who have put down their financial goals in writing and have failed to achieve them. And it's a deep psychological principle which enables you to achieve your vision. But what we fail to do is we don't articulate it and are not specific enough. So my suggestion would be put down your goal, make it specific, think through a strategy about how you'll achieve those goals, and go after it.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you very much, Mr. Himanshu, for giving us, of course, a clearer picture of how people in the UAE are managing their money today, and how simple, consistent habits can truly shape a stronger financial future. And to our viewers, thank you.
Thank you.